But last year, I was very proud, very honored to be the MC for Norm Clarke and Rick Harrison. They were very nice to ask me to MC again, so I'm very honored to do that. Thank you so much. My name is Greg Bennett. I'm the morning meteorologist for KTNV, Channel 13, and it is really, truly my pleasure to be here today to present the 11th Conversations with Norm, featuring Hall of Fame pitcher Greg Maddux and his dear friend, best-selling author Jack Sheehan. We're all here donating our time to give you this exciting interview, and that's definitely something that's really important because today's show is a fundraiser for all the proceeds benefiting the Smith Center and their education outreach programs. The Smith Center's mission includes a strong commitment to the arts education and ensuring exceptional arts experiences for young people in Southern Nevada. So definitely a really good thing, a real big plus there. All of the proceeds that is going to that. And before we get them introduced out here, our guests, we've got to take a very quick moment to acknowledge all of the support that we got from our generous sponsors who have made all of this possible tonight. They are Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, Hugo's Cellar at the Four Queens, Nevada Coin Mart, Channel 13, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Elite Media Incorporated, Vegas 4 Locals, Jerry Metellus Photography, Las Vegas Keynote Speakers, and E-Vision Media. So thank you guys so much to have this out here. Yeah. This is my favorite cue card. I like this one. You guys ready to have the party started? Yeah. Yes! I'm excited too. All right. He's recently retired celebrity columnist for the Las Vegas Review-Journal for the past 17 years and was voted Best Print Journalist by the RJ poll of 2013 and 2014. It keeps going. This guy is like a legend here, I'm telling you. He also is the 2015 recipient of the Denver Press Club's prestigious Damon Runyon Award, as well as receiving a Vegas Dozen Award from Saks Fifth Avenue and Vegas Magazine in April 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a round of applause to Norm Clarke. So spiffy. No problem, sir. All right, guys. Now, please let's welcome our amazing guest. Definitely in the presence of legends here, right here. Former Cubs Hall of Fame pitcher Greg Maddux and his long-term friend, best-selling author Jack Sheehan.
Well, I would just like, you guys can sit down and relax a minute. I just want to say that our guest today is the best example of great timing in my life. When back in August, when we were deciding what we wanted to do, we thought we would try to honor a local sports icon. And boy, did we pick it one at the right time. Go Cubs! Greg doesn't really need much of an introduction, but we'll do it anyway. Proud Las Vegan, Hall of Famer, set a Major League record for winning at least 15 games in 17 seasons. I think Jack's going to talk about this a little bit more, but he won 18 Gold Gloves, and no one's come close to that. So I think what we'll do is just sit down and get it going. I wanted to thank you guys for coming here and donating your time and helping the kids that are going to be a part of the outreach program and all. And I thought I would just start, Greg, with you were not born in Las Vegas. Your dad was a military, born in San Angelo, Texas, and then where'd you go from there?
Well, basically, We came from Madrid, Spain. My father was stationed at Torrejon in Madrid, Spain. We came to Vegas in '76, and his 20 years were up. He retired, and we kind of grew up here. So I've been here in Vegas since the bicentennial year.
Oh, yes. And you went to?
Went to Valley High.
Valley, yeah. Right, Valley High. You started your baseball career, I believe, in Spain, in Madrid, Little League.
Little League,
League.
Yeah.
And you and your brother, Mike, were
Yeah.
probably pretty good, I would guess.
Yeah, well, he was real good. He was like 5 years older than me back at the time. And, you know, my dad's here, he's sitting over there, and he was actually my first coach.
All right, Dave. Stand up, Dave. Then you got, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is that you said that your second job in Las Vegas was as a custodian for Cliff Clavin.
Keith Clavin.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Keith Clavin, yeah.
I'm thinking of the
Yeah.
Cheers guy.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was going through high school, everyone had to get a job in high school, it seemed like back then, and I worked for Keith Clavin, who, if the people don't know who Keith is, Keith kind of invented. Frank Tanana was the first pitcher to come back from a torn rotator cuff, and Keith Clavin did his rehab. So Keith back then was into preventive maintenance, you know, how to help protect your arm for your sport. You know, he did Larry Holmes. He was Larry Holmes' trainer. Did some Mike Tyson. He was on the Olympic Gymnast Committee. So he did all these sports.
Tiger Woods was
Tiger also was with him. And, you know, just very fortunate to have a guy like that taught me how to protect my arm at a young age. And he gave me a job. So, I mean, it was kind of.
So you swept the halls? Is
Vacuumed.
Huh? Vacuumed the halls.
Yes, it's part of the rotator. Conditioning.
One of the things he told me that he subscribed to was the exercise of, you filled in the blanks on that there was 3 times more pushing out.
Oh yeah, well, just pitchers do a little bit different workouts than most people. You know, well, Keith advised not to do a lot of pushing, but do a lot of pulling. So that's why pitchers don't look as, I guess, as sexy as the hitters look when they take their shirts off.
Well, speaking of sexy, how you were drafted in '84, I believe, second round, 31st overall. Describe your body, if you would, if that's not being too personal. Body type is what I meant.
Well, I mean, you know, back then I was 18 out of high school. I was, you know, the same height I am now, and I weighed about $150. So, you know, as you get older, you get fatter. So it's just kind of, you know, very slim, but, you know, my arm worked, so it was okay.
Yeah. So you get drafted, and I believe Doug Mapson of the Cubs saw something in you that was pretty special. I think his quote was something to the effect that, I think this guy would be the best number one overall pick if he looked more like
An athlete?
uh,
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah, first round arm and a 100th round body.
You know, Norm, Bobby Mandeville,
Yeah.
who is a friend of mine, a very close friend of Greg's, and we play golf with him. And Bobby was playing for that rookie team when Greg showed up a little later than the other guys because he had to go through high school graduation. Is that why? Did you actually graduate?
Yeah, barely. But
Okay.
we had our class trip.
Okay.
We had our class
Senior
trip
trip?
to Hawaii. Yeah, that working at Cleveland's trying to save up for it. So I was, you know, you can't let the draft get.
No, I understand. Bobby said they were all wondering who this kid was from Las Vegas that was so highly regarded. And, you know, when he showed up, they were still wondering. But then they saw him throw, and then they realized why the Cubs were so excited to get it.
I believe you had a number of, Greg, on that first Class A team, a number of guys that went on to the majors.
Yeah, we did. We had Jamie Moyer. I don't know if you remember him. Dwight Smith, Jeff Pico. Next year was Rafael Palmiero. So we had a pretty good group coming up.
Well, I got ahead of myself a little bit. I got you drafted before I got you into high school, and who had a lot to do with your evolution?
Oh, Ralph Meter, yeah. Very, very fortunate very lucky to just be, like, my first real pitching coach was Ralph Meter, and I had him when I was 16, 17, and just what he taught me at that age, I was still trying to do my last year of playing when I was 40. So, I mean, the fundamentals that he installed in me, like, back in the day, I mean, they hold true today, and you find yourself talking to pitchers today, and you're passing down the same things that Ralph taught you back in the 80s. So it's pretty special to have a guy like that.
Was your brother almost like another coach, or?
Well, absolutely. My brother also learned from Ralph Meter. Mike Morgan, I don't know how old the crowd is here, but all those, kind of the first pitchers to come out of Vegas all kind of worked with Ralph.
Oh, yes. Jack, feel free to jump in here if you've got something about I think it was your dad hit not line drives, but grounders to you endlessly. Is that how you developed your skills as a defensive,
Well, he was trying to hit line drives. He kept rolling over and he grounded. We played. I just think being young and growing up in Spain, there was no TV, and we were forced to play outside. I mean, so we played all sports. We played, baseball, football, basketball, all those things, and it was a little different. Now it's, you got the video games and all that stuff, but back then we had no TV, so we were forced to entertain ourselves as kids, and we always picked sports to do that.
Norm, one of the things about Mike, who's now the pitching coach of the Washington Nationals, and very, very highly regarded in that profession, but when you have a younger brother that's 4 or 5 years younger than you, who clearly has more talent, and you're pretty good yourself, you can see some resentment there, but I think the cool thing about Mike is he never had that. He's been proud of everything Greg's done. Greg's proud of everything Mike's done, but Mike would include Greg in the older kids' games, even back in Spain. And in any sport, if you're playing with older kids that are performing at a higher level, you're going to improve faster than if you're playing with your own age group. And so I think Mike was hugely instrumental in Greg advancing as fast as he did by just being a great older brother.
And you mentioned that Mike would lobby for Greg to play a couple of years ahead of his
I think that's, isn't that right?
group.
Well, I was after the wedgie, but yeah.
Well,
That's not a golf term, right?
yeah. Well, we'll get to other things that he taught Greg later on. It's not pretty. Keep drinking.
So your career is progressing in high school. The scouts are showing up. I believe you said that there was 15, 20 scouts on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dependent on what school you were playing, but yeah, they were out there.
What was your mindset as far as college or pros? Were you thinking you were going to go high in the draft?
Well, I had no idea. I was just, you're kind of, young and dumb, naive, all that, and I was just playing baseball. I loved the game, and I thought I might be good enough to get a scholarship out of it. So, if I could trade baseball for a college scholarship, that would be fine. And I just ended up getting drafted a little higher than I thought I would. So.
I'm curious, did you get a lot of offers from colleges before you got drafted?
Yes.
Where were you thinking of going?
I was going to go to Arizona.
Were you?
Yeah, down at U of A.
Okay.
And
How close did you come?
man, I signed a letter of intent. I mean, I came, I guess, if I was going to go to college, I was going to go there. So
Sure.
but yeah.
So among the teams or the school programs that were offering you, was UNLV involved?
They were at the end, yeah. At the very end they were. But I'd already committed to go to Arizona, so, didn't work out, ended up signing anyway, but now I'm coaching at UNLV. So,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Took 30 years, but I got there.
We've talked about so you, let's talk about that when you first came up with the Cubs. I think your very first appearance was as a pinch runner. Was that the date? Was that the 88?
No, that was, this was September of '86 when I got called up. And actually, it's pretty cool. My first day in the big leagues was Nolan Ryan against Jamie Moyer. So I had a chance to see the hardest thrower in the league pitch against the softest thrower. And
The guy you started with.
yeah, actually. And, you know, the game went extra innings. It started getting dark, so they called the game because of darkness. It was before they had lights. And resumed the game the next day, and they said, hey, you know, you might pitch today. So I said, oh, okay, you know, nervous, you know, and all that. And so they had me go down to the bullpen to warm up. I start warming up. We got a man on second and 1 out, and they call down and go, are you ready? And I'm thinking, you know, 1 out, man on second. And I got, you know, 5 minutes left. I go, yeah, I'm ready. So they put me in a pinch run at second. So, you know, I'm out there at second, and I'm trying not to get picked off, and, you know, I want to score, but I don't want to get picked off. I've been pinch ran, and, you know, a handful of times. And next 2 guys make outs, and I go in the dugout, and I'm going, that's pretty stupid. I don't know why they had to warm up on the pinch run. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I'm sitting there doing nothing, and the coach goes, hey, you're in the game. I'm like, oh, really? So I didn't know about the double switch then. So I went in, got a guy out, gave up a homer. We lost. Yeah. Mickey Hatcher, basket piece. And,
I knew you'd remember who hit the first homer off you.
Yeah. And yeah.
Then a couple days later, you
Got
went
to start
9.
against the Reds, yeah. Got my first start against the Reds.
Complete game, wasn't it?
Wow.
Must have felt pretty good.
You know what, it was cool, because growing up, I loved Pete Rose. He was kind of like the guy, you know, for me, growing up back in the day. My dad forced me to like the Reds, so, you know, I liked the Reds, so I picked Pete. And, he was the manager back then, so I remember during batting practice, got a chance to shake his hand and talk to him a little bit, and it was a pretty special day.
So you're with the Cubs now, and I believe you went from was it 4 and 16 to 8 and 18 and 6 or something?
Yeah.
What would you attribute it to that turnaround?
Well, I wasn't any good the first year. I mean, that's probably
They must have learned fast.
well, they kept hitting it, you know, when they hit it, it's like, that's not good. So they just kept hitting it that year. And, but no, I forgot how to throw my changeup properly when I got called up. I know it sounds stupid, but that's kind of what happened. And I went to winter ball the following year, and I had to learn how to pitch slow again. You know, pitching fast wasn't the problem; it was being able to pitch slow. You know, once I improved my off-speed pitches a little bit, then things kind of got a little bit better.
Was there a pitching coach that helped you a lot in that regard?
At that time, it was Dick Pohl. I had him in Double-A, and then I had him when I got to the big leagues. And it's pretty cool because, you know, you look back, and I've had all these coaches growing up, and you always take a piece from every coach. You know, I mean, my rookie ball coach helped me with my changeup. My A-ball coach commanded the fastball, and, you know, Double-A was your delivery. And then, you know, you get to the big leagues, and Billy Connors is helping you with your mental game, and you just take little pieces of each coach you had growing up, and you just try to make it all kind of mesh together.
Jack, you mentioned that when he got a 5th pitch, that
Wasn't Billy Connors that gave you a fifth pitch?
Billy Connors showed me how to throw a cutter. Yeah.
And that made a lot of difference.
Yeah. I had a lot of arguments with Dick Pohl about how to throw a cutter properly, and he didn't want me to throw it, but I needed to throw it.
Is that a hard pitch on your arm?
No, Well, it can be. I mean, any pitch can be hard on
Yeah,
your arm.
yeah.
But, it was something I needed. You know, I was facing Tony Fernandez, a little slap left-handed hitter from the Padres, and I threw him a fastball away. He hit it out left center. He got it up in the wind at Wrigley, and it just convinced me that I need to learn how to throw a cutter, because that's going to happen like with the good hitters more often than the bad hitters. So, that was when I was like all in on I had to learn how to throw that pitch.
Was it uncommon at that era to have 5 pitches?
Well, not really. It's uncommon to have a sinker and a cutter.
Okay.
Back then, some guys' fastballs cut, but they didn't sink it. But if you can do both, then you're kind of on.
How long did it take you to learn that pitch?
Well, once you learn how to throw it correctly, it takes a week. I mean, you can learn it fast. Once you get it, you got it.
Okay.
But Billy Connors went to Danny Darwin, who was a relief pitcher for the Astros at the time, and Danny Darwin had a really good one, and I kind of mimicked the way he threw it, and what worked for him worked for me, and it was just, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how the information gets shared from team to team, or just people you know, and it was.
Did you win your first Cy Young shortly after that? Or?
Yeah, the next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
I guess it worked.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, it's big pitch. Big pitch.
Greg, who are your closest teammates on the Cubs?
Well, the Cubs, back in the first time through, would be like Rafael Palmeiro. He ended up being in our wedding. And who else was there? Damon Berryhill. Good dudes. Kind of see those guys occasionally now, today. And, Atlanta, obviously, Smoltz, Avery, all of those guys.
So, 6 years with the Cubs?
6 years.
6 years. Go to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Did that create any sort of rumblings with the Chicago fans?
Well, it depends who you talk to. I'm sure some were glad I left, and some probably weren't. So, that's just the nature of the game, and the Cubs wanted to go in a different direction, so it made me go in a different direction. So,
it might have been different 10 years later. No internet when you go to Atlanta. No texting, no cell phones with cameras, because with the Cubs' long history of losing, then all of a sudden they've developed a star pitcher, and he wins a Cy Young, and he says sayonara. In today's day, you'd have been getting some ugly texts, dude.
Yeah.
And some bad pictures, and
That-
hung an effigy and all that stuff.
All that Twitter stuff would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, so you probably left at the right time.
When you said that they wanted to go a different direction, and then you went your own direction, what direction were the Cubs going at that time?
Well, there's two sides to every story, but my side was like, they thought they could get 3 pitchers to replace me. So I had to go. They got their 3 pitchers, and
How'd that work out?
it actually worked out great. I mean, loved going to Atlanta.
Oh, I know it worked out well for you.
Yeah.
How it worked out for the Cubs.
Well, I mean, the Cubs did okay too. I mean, they got to the playoffs somewhere in that time,
Yeah.
twice during that
Yeah.
time I was in Atlanta. So, I mean, it worked out kind of for both sides.
So you go to Atlanta. Who did you gravitate toward as far as teammates?
The pitching staff.
I mean,
Yeah, Smoltz, Glad, Kent Merker, Pete Smith, those guys. When I went to Atlanta, you show up in spring training, and Smoltz goes, "Oh, if you're going to be a starting pitcher here, you have to play golf." Man. So I'm like, okay, I'm in. So that's actually when I started really playing golf and kind of taking to it more, because Smoltz was a golf coordinator, and we would look at the board, spring training, we were out of there at 11 o'clock. We had a 12 o'clock tee time somewhere every day.
I got to throw this in because Greg always says Smoltz was the phone man. And what that meant is if they're in a city where there's a great golf course, so if they're in Pennsylvania and they want to play Oakmont, you don't just get on those private clubs that are in the top 10 or 20 clubs in America. So Smoltz would call the pro shop. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way I remember it. Smoltz would call the pro shop, and some assistant pro would answer the phone and go, "Yes, Bill, my name is John Smoltz. I'm with the Atlanta Braves. We're in town for a series with the Pirates or the Phillies, whoever it was. And God, is there any chance at all that I could play your golf course today? I've heard so much about it." And the guy would say, "Well, God, we'd love to have you, Mr. Smoltz. This is a private club. You have to play with a member to play our club." And so then Smoltz would say something like, "Well, I got two other guys I'd like to bring with me, Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux. And do you think there's a member on the driving range or on the putting green practicing right now who might be willing to, be the member to sponsor us for the day? And, we can bring some jerseys and some signed baseballs." So, roughly that's how it went. So these guys got to play every great golf course in America. Pretty neat.
I remember, came to Denver and played the elite courses there.
Cherry Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
You played Augusta how many times?
Just twice.
Just twice.
What'd you shoot?
Ooh, I don't remember. It was a while. It was before they Tiger proofed it. It was back in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, special day. Special day going there.
I understand that you played a lot of golf with Arnold Palmer.
A little bit, not a lot, but some, yeah. We were fortunate enough to go to Bay Hill and play with him in spring training. When we were in Atlanta, we moved from West Palm Beach to Orlando, and it was pretty cool. We were about 10 minutes from Bay Hill, and Arnie would take us out once a spring, and we get to get in his group. He had 2 or 3 groups. We'd get in there, and we get to golf with the King, so that was pretty special.
What do you remember? Is there one specific time you remember about it? Were you super competitive with him? Or
Oh, well, Smoltzy was, because, Smoltzy is like Johnny Golfer. He's going on the senior tour and all that, But, we were just enjoying the day. It's, probably the coolest part was we play the first 8 holes. Smoltzy's like 1 over. Arnold Palmer's even. He's parred every hole. And Smoltzy's hitting at 60 yards past him. Okay, but Arnie keeps hitting his 3-wood close, chipping it close, getting it up and down. And, we're sitting there and we're on the 9th hole, and Smoltzy's like, "Man, I can't believe he's beating me by 2 shots." And, I'm like, "Well, come on, Smoltzy, he's the king." So, anyway, Arnie hasn't missed a shot all day, and Arnie gets right back here, and Smoltzy kind of farts in his backswing. Okay, so.
Kind of.
He chunks it, he hits it fat, okay? And,
I knew we'd get there eventually.
yeah, we had it. So, Smoltzy goes, "You think he heard that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he heard it." I go, "He hasn't hit a shot fat, probably 50 years." So that was kind of the big thing, and that was kind of the topper of the day was to have that Smoltzy story going in there at the end.
I was remiss in not introducing Jack correctly. Jack has known Greg for 20 years or so.
At least.
And Jack is one of our great authors in town, done 25 books. Jack, talk a little bit about some of the books that you're working on, and then we'll have you talk about the Hall of Fame.
Most people have read 1 or 2 of the 25. That includes my family. But I just finished a book on Vietnam, and I finished another book on the Gibson family who owned Pepcon. And anybody here in 1988 with Pepcon Blue? So we go through that, and that company provided ammonium perchlorate, which was the rocket fuel for the space shuttle and trips to the moon and all that great stuff. So the nice thing about I'm currently working on a book on NASCAR. So every time I start a new book, it's like I'm going back to college and I'm a freshman and I don't know anything. But I really enjoy writing about things I don't know about, because by the time you're done and interview 50 or 100 people, you're going to learn a whole lot. I did the biography on Perry Thomas, the great banker who sadly we lost a couple months ago. The Thomas and Mack Center is named after Perry and his partner Jerry Mack. I've done 4 golf books, a couple with Peter Jacobson, Chicken Soup for the Golfer's Soul. I'd really like to do a book with the Maddux brothers one day, but it would have to be sold in a cellophane wrapper at the back corner of an adult bookstore. So I don't know how many copies we could sell, but I'll tell you this, it would be the funnest book I've ever done because these guys are nothing but laugh whenever I'm with them.
So along those lines, you, Greg asked you to work on the Hall of Fame project.
Yeah, we were playing golf one day in early 2014. Greg and Chase, his son who's a pitcher at UNLV now, and he got a call that there was a chance he was going to be elected to the Hall of Fame. I think we were on the 2nd or 3rd hole, and I think a chance. The only thing I can't understand is why it wasn't a unanimous vote, but there were like 9 old goats who didn't vote for him for whatever reason, I don't know. But and they needed an article for the Hall of Fame book, and I just happened to be right place, right time. And Greg said, "Do you want to do that?" And I said, "Sure." So I did that, and then a couple of weeks later, we were playing golf again, I think, and he said, "Man," he says, then he had already been announced that he was in the Hall of Fame. And he said, "I'm going to give the shortest speech in the history of the Hall of Fame. I'm talking for like 2 minutes and sitting down." And I said, "I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that. You got to go longer than that." He goes, "Well, I don't like public speaking. You know, a lot of people consider that their biggest phobia. I would be a little bit nervous pitching to Barry Bonds in the bottom of the 9th, you know, with the bases loaded, but Greg could handle that just fine, but he didn't like the idea of getting up in front of a crowd and speaking." So we started to work on that, and he ended up giving a 10-minute speech that is, you can find it on the internet, Greg Maddux's Hall of Fame speech, and he did a great job with it. And I think you're leading to the one story. So I told Greg, I said, "Look, the reason you can't go for 2 minutes is there's 3 things you have to accomplish in this speech. You have to thank all the people who are responsible for your career, for getting you there. You know, your wife, your parents, Mike, Ralph Meter, Roger Fairless, teammates, coaches, all these guys, and that takes a couple minutes. And then you have to kind of tell some inside baseball stories, you know, about how you accomplished what you did in your career. And the third thing is you kind of have to let them see the real Greg Maddux." And that was the scary part. Because while Greg has been called a pitching genius, some of his behavior off the course might be more in line with American Pie and Porky's and Animal House. And so I said, "You got to, you know, maybe just 1 or 2 cute stories." And so he told me like 3 or 4 stories that there's no way you could tell at Cooperstown in a million years. They were wonderful stories, and I'd love to be able to share them today, but we won't be doing that. And then, so I kept kind of going. This was in the locker room at Southern Highlands in the lunchroom, and he said, "How about this?" He goes, "My brother Mike taught me how to light farts when I was like 6." And I said, "Okay, well, that was the tamest story I'd heard." So I said, "Let me see if we can work with that." I said, "I don't think, even though I used the word here, I don't think fart is the right word at Cooperstown with a national TV audience of 10 million people." But I said, "Let's go with this." And he actually delivered the line perfectly. I said, "Let's say that Mike taught you a trick that involved methane and a cigarette lighter." And, you know, he actually knocked it out of the park in that line. He delivered that line. He said, "Mike taught me a lot of things growing up, but he even taught me something about science. He taught me a trick with the cigarette lighter and methane." And there was an immediate laughter from all the baseball players because they know that every guy who's ever played in the major leagues has either lit a fart or watched somebody do it. And there was just this kind of growing swell of laughter throughout the audience, and it grew and it grew, and then I remember Greg kind of surprised by how funny it was, and he goes, "That's pretty funny, isn't it?" And what I remember watching on TV was the commissioner, Bud Selig, and I think Reggie Jackson and a couple other old ball players were sitting right by it, and I thought they were going to fall off their chairs because they thought, "That's the Greg Maddux we know and love." But the speech went over really well, I thought.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Along the lines of the prankster, I wanted to ask you, Greg, without naming names, of course, we'll protect the identity of the names. What was the wildest prank that you can think of?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Lighter fluid?
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
I had never heard this before until
You got it.
Jack.
So, Ryan Sandberg, we'll throw him under the bus, all right? So if we're in the bathroom stall right here, right? You know, they have the walls there, and you got your toilet and all that. He would get ammonia and make a circle kind of right around here. So when the guy would go in and sit down, he would be in your stall, and underneath he would light it on fire.
Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire.
Exactly. And I was lucky enough to witness, I think it was Leon Durham picked the wrong stall that day. And Rhino lit him on fire. So that was pretty good.
Today you'd have 20 ball players with iPhones
Yeah.
and camera going,
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to bust out
I
of
mean,
the
there's
stall.
nothing like setting a teammate on fire for a good laugh, right?
But yeah, that was good.
I know that when you introduced your father, I just wondered if you'd like to introduce your
Yeah,
wife.
I got my wife Kathy right down here in the front.
Family members.
And my mother Linda. But yeah, good stuff.
And Jack, you've got
I'm lucky enough to have my wife Carol and my daughter Lily right up here.
fantastic. Jack, I remember you telling a story about, I believe, being at the Maddux's home and the doorbell rang and Greg goes to the door and...
I think Kathy went to the door.
Oh, okay.
And Greg it just so happened, we were, I think, working on his speech, and it just happened to be their silver wedding anniversary that very day. And Greg heard the doorbell, he knew what it was, and Kathy came to the table with a huge, beautiful floral arrangement. And I didn't know what was going on, and Greg said, read the card. And I think it said, I love you, and it was signed Hannibal Lecter. Who, for those who don't know, was the Anthony Hopkins character in Silence of the Lambs who liked to eat human body parts.
Serial killer.
Yeah, a serial killer who ate his victims. And I thought, you know, it was romantic, but with a Greg Maddux twist.
And the reason you were Hannibal Lecter?
Well, she was Clarice Starling. I mean, yeah.
That's the Jodie Foster character in the movie. Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's get to the World Series. Is that okay by you guys? So you throw out the ceremonial co-pitch with Fergie Jenkins before Game 3. You told me that afterwards that you guys went out on the town.
Oh.
Went to a bar with a couple of famous guys.
No, we went to bed after the game.
Oh, I thought you told me this story about Bill Murray, and you were at the bar and he started singing.
Oh no, that was before the game. That was sitting on the bench before the game.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time I got my facts wrong,
Yeah,
folks.
just sitting down there waiting to throw out the first pitch. But
What did
yeah,
Murray have to say?
just like, what was his name in Caddyshack?
Carl
He was-
Fackler or something?
Yeah, he was Carl. I mean,
Yeah.
he was the exact same, like, he
Was it
wasn't acting in that
dropping the
movie,
lip
he was
to
just
do it?
being normal. And, but yeah, he sang the seventh inning stretch for us,
Oh, did he?
in Daffy Duck style, so.
So he was practicing. He was rehearsing there.
Well, no, we did game 4, so he had sung the song for game 3.
Oh yes.
And,
Oh, I got that.
But yeah, it was, it was pretty cool. You know, I got a chance to sit down there with Fergie and Billy Williams, Bill Murray, and then you know, the players started coming out, so.
And didn't you meet our local hero, Chris Bryant, for the
Yeah,
first time?
first
there?
time, yeah, 1 second before he ran on the field.
Oh,
But just pretty cool, because, I mean, to be down 3-1 and to come back and get the last three.
Well, that brings me to the curse, or the so-called curse. You mentioned the other day that you didn't believe in that mumbo-jumbo, hocus pocus,
Yeah.
but you...
The goat and the cat and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you did think that there might have been
Yeah.
something else going on there for 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's some spirits around there, no question. I know, you know, middle of the summer, normal day at Wrigley, pitchers hit at 10:20, and about 9:30, they would have the funeral out there in the outfield, and they would throw the ashes in the ivy, and, you know, hour later, we're hitting balls in the ivy, the ashes are flying out. I'm not sure I want to get this ball and throw this one back in. So,
Did you have teammates that didn't want to dig in there?
well, there were a few. I mean,
Were you one of them?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't go in there.
Ghostbusters, huh?
Save it for the ground crew.
So, Game 7, 6-6, the home run. What were you thinking? First of all, what were you doing on the...
I was sitting there watching the game, trying real hard to stay awake for the end, because, you know, you had the rain delay, you had all the stuff going on. But
By yourself, with a
by myself,
Stromboli, was that right?
I had maybe a Stromboli, some wine, sitting there enjoying the game. And, you know, I just thought, there's just been so many, like, hardships for the Cubs over the years, like, you know, to have it, and then did it slip away, or what's going to happen next? You know, you kind of felt like, you know, you went from optimism to pessimism to what's going to happen next, and, you know, Zobrist got the big hit.
Rain delay happened, so what were you thinking? I was surprised to hear that they really rallied up.
Yeah,
Got
team
together.
meeting or something back there.
They what?
Who knows? They
Had a
had
team meeting,
or
yeah,
something.
right.
Yeah. You know, it was just a spectacular game to, you know, cap off a spectacular season. I mean, all through baseball.
You know, one of the things that I kept thinking watching the game, because Chris Bryant lives right around the corner from us, and he used to come to our door and ask for money for the Bonanza High School baseball uniforms. And if you ever meet him, he's the nicest young man, polite. Just, they don't make him any better. This guy's, they're going to make the logo of baseball players after him, like they did with Jerry West in the NBA, because he's that All-American a kid. But Joe Madden made 4 or 5 decisions as a great manager that he is, that would have had him second-guessed for the rest of his career had they not turned out right. And I'd like to, you know, as somebody who really understands inside baseball strategy, they took out the Greg Maddux wannabe, Kyle Hendricks, who John Smoltz reminded us 20 times over the World Series that he reminded him of you.
I don't off for that, by the way.
You paid him off for that? All those mentions? Yeah, your name came up more often than some of the players on the bench. But talk about that a little bit. I mean, baseball's such a game of inches, as golf is, that man, Chris Bryant just barely slides under the tag at home.
Yeah.
The ball bounces off of Ross's mask, and 2 runs score, and now it's looking like, why would he take out Hendricks? Because Lester doesn't have the stuff. Talk a little bit about all the strategic decisions that could have gone wrong that ended up going right.
Well, I mean, to me, that's the beauty of baseball right there. Because, I mean, we could sit there and we can second guess and criticize the manager, and they won the World Series.
Yeah, no.
But it's like at the time, when you're sitting there watching it, I mean, would I have taken out Kendricks? No. You know, would I have used Chapman the day before? No. You know, but there's a reason he's managing and we're sitting up here. You know? But I mean, you know, there's so many. To me, that's the beauty of the game, because there's always 2 or 3 ways to do it right, if it works. You know, if it doesn't work, then there was definitely that one thing you should have done.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a great game. That's why it's fun to watch.
And that's why it made it the
But
game
yeah.
7
But
of
yeah.
all time, really.
Yeah, I mean,
With
you know,
the history of the two teams and the desperation of the city of Cleveland and Chicago, to mix all that together and then to have an extra inning game with a rain delay
An
and
arm falling off.
and a
Yeah.
4-run lead that's lost, you know, and people in Chicago are looking
Yeah.
for the bridge to jump off. And yeah, I mean, it had about as much drama as any
Yeah.
athletic event you could ever see.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I mean, there's always rules. There's certain rules that you use for your bullpen. Okay, if you throw 30 pitches, you don't pitch the next day. If you pitch 2 days in a row, you're not going to pitch the third day. If you throw more than 50 pitches, you get 2 days off. But when you get to the postseason, it's all out the window. And you know, you sit there and you have to make a decision. You have to make it now. You go with who's been good for you all year, and I think that's kind of how it ended up.
You pitched several World Series games. Could you notice a significant increase in adrenaline when you're pitching in a series, or did you just work as hard as you can to keep an even keel?
You do everything in the world to make it just another game, but it's not. Okay?
Yeah,
I mean, you sit there and you look in the mirror and lie to yourself all day, but when you're out there, you know it's a World Series and it's do or die. You got to win. You know, and I think just watching the hitters, you saw, you know, if we want to pick on the Cub hitters, the first game or two they were playing home run derby, and finally once that got out of their system, they started hitting the ball and playing good again. So, you know, the hitters get it too, and you know, it seems like the more nervous you get, the harder you throw, the harder you swing, and that's not always the right thing to do, or the best thing to do.
Greg, where did that confidence come from? Did you ever go through a real, true confidence crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't show in your record.
No.
Well, I mean,
Consistency was such a huge part of your career.
well, thank you, but you know, you're always, you know, I guess you stick to your preparation, and that gives you the confidence you need to go out there and you know, try to get through it sometimes when you really want to go back and throw it.
What was the lowest point?
Lowest point was probably losing to the Giants in the '89 playoffs. You know, that was a tough one to swallow because there is something about Cub fans. You know, everyone says our fans are the best and all this stuff, but the Cub fans really, truly are the best in baseball. And, you know, there's a lot of cities with great fans around the league, but Chicago fans they're kind of the cream of the crop. You know, to go out there and to lose, you know, it's like you let your coaches down, you let your teammates down, you let the city of Chicago down, and that was a tough one to take.
How did you deal with when you'd get really angry? Because I've played enough golf with you
Yeah.
to know that your chili runs pretty hot
Yeah.
on the golf course. I'll tell you one quick one. I had the good fortune of playing with Greg and Mike and Bobby Mandeville at Pebble Beach in a tournament that's overstated, but it's called the Baseball World Series of Golf. And really what it is a bunch of really fun guys that like to play golf and drink, but it's got this elaborate title. And so we're playing as a team, the four of us, and Greg hits like 3 snap hooks in a row. I mean, that's a drive that goes out and goes way left, and it usually ends up in a real bad spot, sometimes the Pacific Ocean. And after it hit about the 3rd one, he just slammed his club on the ground, and he goes, "Are any of you pricks going to tell me what I'm doing wrong?" As if we had an instant cure, you know. But when you would get mad,
It's easier to blame you guys than me.
well, that's right. The last thing you want to do is blame yourself. It might hurt your confidence. Did you ever have to deal with anger issues as a
absolutely.
pitcher?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you calm yourself down?
I usually threw bats.
Did you?
I'd go in the clubhouse and I could throw a bat off that back wall probably pretty easy.
Did you rearrange
Timing.
furniture in the locker room and all that stuff?
I didn't really beat up a lot of stuff in the locker room, but you know, to get it out, that was the kind of thing I did. It was safe, make sure nobody's in the way, and let it
It's
fly.
better if they're not.
Let it fly. But we had an assistant trainer once in Atlanta that used to think it was funny and like to watch when guys would get mad. So, you know, you know, Avery would get mad and he's in there throwing a fit. You know, you'd see the trainer over there in the corner giggling. So, you know, whatever. A month later, now it's my turn. I gotta let these bats go. I want to kill something. And I saw him over there giggling. I'm like, you want to giggle? Yeah, that was the last time he giggled. So.
Cured him.
But yeah, I mean, you know, you get it out, you get frustrated. It's, you know, it's golf's frustrating, right? We've all been there.
Yeah.
And get it out, move on, learn from it, and try
Hope
to
the
get
fine
better.
isn't too big, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
try to get better.
Greg Pete Rose told me a story once about how they lost the game, and it was pretty ugly fashion. And a bunch of players went into the chow room, where they had a big spread on the table and all that. And I can't remember who the player was, but he came in and he was so enraged by the idea that everybody was grabbing sandwiches that he just tipped the food table over and all. Did you ever see that done, or what was the most extreme case of anger in the clubhouse over a loss?
Well, I've heard managers doing that. I was never lucky enough to play for one that actually did that. That'd be kind of fun to see, you know. But I heard of managers tipping the spread over, like, you guys suck so bad, you don't deserve to eat today, and that stuff goes on. I've heard that. You know, there's just some good ones, you know. I mean, one of my teammates in New York in the clubhouse came in and, you know, I was charting. He came in the third inning. His day was over. He had a bad day. And it's kind of a small food room, you know, and you're in front of the TV, you're charting, and he walks in and he starts slamming stuff. And there's not a lot of room in there. So it's like, I'm going to get freaking killed by debris.
Splinters.
Usually they put the spread out, but he got knocked out so early the food wasn't there yet. So it's just the tin cans, or those big tin, you know, they put all the food in. So he starts banging those, and it sounds like cymbals going off. And he fires his glove, and there's a chip rack over there. And I don't know how it hit it, but it hit it perfect. And it was just chips and confetti all over the place. It broke the coffee pot. I mean, it was, it was a good one.
If I can, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If I can go back to the World Series for a minute, you pitched, or you were pitching coach for the Rangers for 2 years, was it?
My brother was a pitching coach, and I worked part-time
Okay.
trying to just help him out a little bit.
So you mentioned that you had a couple of your pupils, I guess would be the term, in the series.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, Grim and CJ, the guy that almost got the save in Game 7, got 2 of the outs in the final inning. And, you know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch these guys, you know, 4 or 5 years ago when they were in A-ball instructional league and they were just coming up, and actually see them, you know, 3 or 4 years later, still learning their craft and getting better and having the success that they had. It's pretty cool.
So you just started now as a volunteer pitching coach with UNLV. Joining your son, Chase, that must have been a tremendous...
Well, yeah, we've only been doing it a month. We haven't just played games yet, so we'll see if I still like it once again. No, but yeah, you know, I enjoy the coaching and kind of the part-time, and I've done it the last 5 or 6 years, and, you know, kind of tired of traveling, so I thought, you know, ask UNLV if they'll take me on, and they did. So we'll try down here and see how it goes.
You know, I mentioned to Greg the other day, I'm sure there's a long list of major colleges that if Greg said, I'd really like to coach the baseball team, the offers would come. Give us your thoughts about that if some college, let's say nearby, so you didn't have to do a lot of traveling or weren't away from home a lot, would you ever consider being a major college baseball coach?
Probably not, you know, I mean, all the politics involved in the recruiting and all that stuff, that's kind of not like what I'm about, you know. I'm kind of more of a just do what you can to help the guys and move on. Enjoy the rest of the day, you know. Just try to help them and help them teach themselves, and, you know, go play golf, and I'll see you, you know, we'll try again tomorrow.
You know, a lot of athletes that have had great success and long careers, really struggle with how to fill that competition void that they experience upon retirement. I know golf is a big part of it because you like to play and play well and work on your game and play great courses. Are there other things that you do to kind of reach that level of desire for competitive action?
Not really. I mean, you know how you always want to play one more year? I did that twice. So, I mean, it was time to go. It was time. I knew that. And I'm not struggling with it at all. You know, I enjoy golf. When it gets too competitive, it's not as much fun, to be honest with you. I mean, to me, golf is to go out. Hopefully you play good, obviously,
Yeah.
but, the most thing is going out and enjoying it and having a good time. So when that stops happening is when I know I need to take a break and stop playing as much.
Interesting.
Greg, how many major colleges or major league teams approached you? Would you guess?
Since I retired?
Yeah.
There's been a couple, there's been a handful, but I like retirement. I mean, no BS. I like retirement, I like baseball, and I like trying to mix in the two together.
Yeah. And it probably has got to be a special bonus to know that you can probably work with your son for the next 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other kids too. I mean, the other kids are great too. I mean, obviously it's pretty cool to coach your kid, but I enjoy coaching the other 11 guys as much too.
Greg said the biggest challenge with Chase is putting a pound on him. Give me, I can't believe these dimensions, because you said he's built like olive oil. Did you tell me he was 6'1" and 140?
Yeah, 6'2", $140, $140.
6'2", $140. I know the feeling. I was there in high school, so it's not fun being that skinny. At least he was an athlete. I played golf. Had no respect whatsoever. This was pre-Tiger. You wouldn't even tell people you were on the golf team. They'd just go, Nerd City, man. Where's your slide rule? Yeah, I mean, it had no. Here's my one
You didn't
baseball.
have the nice clothes and the collar up and all.
Oh yeah, sure, Johnny Miller. I do. Here's my one baseball story. It's pathetic, as you might expect. I pitched in grade school, and I wanted to pitch at Gonzaga Prep, an all-boys Jesuit high school, which explains why my sense of humor is so wrong. All-boys Jesuit high schools will twist any kid. I don't care how normal you are. So I'm a pitcher on the freshman baseball team at Gonzaga Prep, and I'm the #1 man on the varsity golf team. And we have like 6 games, and I'm throwing batting practice every day, wearing my arm out in batting practice. I never get in a game. And my dad said to me one day, why are you playing baseball? It's conflicting with the golf matches and stuff. So I said, well, I love baseball. It's my first love. He goes, yeah, but you stink. and you're a pretty good golfer. You're already the #1 man on the varsity. So he said, go and talk to the coach and ask him why he hasn't cut you yet. And so the guy's name was Joe Schabel. He was also my algebra teacher. So I went to Mr. Schabel and I said, Coach, I'm delighted to be on the baseball team. I'm throwing a lot of batting practice. You think I'm ever going to get in a game? He says, I really don't think so. I mean, well, what if we're like up 10-0 some days? And no, I don't think so. And he goes, I need to ask you this, Jack. I saw in the paper the other day that you shot 69, you won this golf tournament, you're the #1 man on the varsity golf team. Why are you playing baseball? I said, it's my first love. He said, I got to tell you, kid, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm cutting you today. And that ended my baseball career. And I had a mean 47-mile-an-hour fastball. I don't understand it. Probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Anyway, my one baseball story.
What's the most humbling thing about golf for you, Greg?
Geez, all of it. I mean, it could be like hitting snap hooks, or it could be missing 3-footers. I mean, it's just, try not to take it too serious. I really do. I try to enjoy it and realize that, it's going to happen.
Is Keith Flatt here? Where are you, Keith? Yeah. He asked me if he could wear a tank top and a Speedo to this event, and I said, yeah, we'll comp your tickets if you do. But I think Keith and Greg play golf together more than any 2 living humans, and I know within the last couple of years on the front nine at Southern Highlands, playing with Keith and me, this turkey shot 29, which is 7 under for 9 holes. So he's still got a little talent at the game of golf. I think you might have shot 40 on the back, but I remember the 29 on the
42.
Was it 42? It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, broke 80.
Well, I think we can wrap it up here. We've got we got the fart jokes in. We got the. I can't thank you guys enough for coming out and joining me on this. I know that the crowd is going to get 30 minutes of Q&A in, so I think they're probably waiting to hear that. So let's go to that.
Weren't they incredible? Right? Unbelievable. All right, so yes, this is the part where we're doing Q&A, and I do apologize for the folks that are up on the second balcony here. I can't jump up there. So, well, one thing is because I can't play any sport whatsoever. This is why I'm a weatherman. But if you could, obviously I'm not sure if you guys have, there's a microphone up there, I'm pretty sure there's not. So if you do have a question up there, obviously I'll be pointing to you guys and you can just yell them. All right. So raising hands, if you have a question, by all means, sir, yes.
Greg, what are your 3 favorite golf courses, and what course do you play the most in Las Vegas?
Well, it's a tough one. Probably go with Pine Valley, Pebble Beach, and there's there's
Cypress?
there's Augusta. There's so many good ones. Oakmont. I mean, I really love playing back east, like New York area, Philly area. I think that's kind of, for me, it's pretty special to play back there. And then I forgot the second part.
Southern Islands. Where do you play here?
Oh, I play mostly Southern Highlands or over at TPC.
Solid stuff. Any other questions? Maybe on the floor, up in the balcony?
There's one back there.
What? Oh, yes.
Thank you. Hi, Greg. I'm a big fan of yours, trust me, a big baseball fan. I grew up in Tommy Glevin's hometown, Bill Wickham, Mass, right?
Sorry.
And, anyway, what is the greatest game that you, in your opinion, ever pitched in the major leagues?
The greatest game ever pitched? That's a tough one. I know I faced Mike Morgan once in St. Louis, and it was probably that day in St. Louis against Mike Morgan. I think it was one of those games where it took about an hour and 40 minutes, and Mo Man pitched really good, and you know, it's just one of those things where if you threw 90 pitches, about 70 of them were right where you wanted them to be. But yeah.
Not bad. That's a good one. Oh, here, right here. Yes.
Yeah, Greg, you never talked too much about the farm leagues with the Cubs. How was the farm leagues with the Cubs in the Midwest?
Okay, yeah. Signed out of high school, went to Pikeville, Kentucky. Played there. Moorhead University was there. We used their field. The following year was Peoria, Illinois. Bradley University was there. We used their field. And you know, that's where you're learning how to play baseball every day. You know, that's the biggest thing about the minor leagues is when you sign out of high school, even the guys that sign out of college, you don't play baseball every day. Even at UNLV, they get 2 days a week off right now, and then they're going to take a month off before the season. So, but that's the big thing. The biggest thing you learn in the minor leagues is it's an everyday job. And no matter how you feel, where you're at, get on the bus, get off, it's every day. And you know, that's probably the biggest lesson learned, I think, in the minor leagues. And then obviously, you know, you're competing against your teammates to get moved up to the next level next year as well. But at the same time, you're rooting for them. It's kind of a hard thing to do sometimes, but that's kind of how it is.
We got another question right here.
Greg, good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
I'm Terry Zwirling. I'm originally from Chicago and knew Arnie Stone and Harry Carey. And growing up in Atlanta, was very good friends with Shaylin Carey, Skip, Harry's stepson. Any great Carey stories you could share?
Is that a plan?
I forgot that one.
It just got really good now.
So, I was in Chicago with Harry, okay, and on the road trips, you could always go down to the hotel bar and have a beer with Harry. So, went down, had a couple beers with Harry. Harry had a few too many, fell off the bar stool. Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, he just did a Peter Pan right off the bar stool. So, go to Atlanta, Skip Carey now. Same thing. You ever go to the hotel bar, Skip's going to be in there. And I had the pleasure of watching him fall off the bar in Atlanta. So I guess my goal now is to find Chip one night and
The hat trick.
him fall off the
Yeah.
bar. So,
Yeah.
but they're great people, and Harry was awesome. I mean, everybody loved him. He could rag you and complain, and you still laughed. You know, it was always awesome to be around him, and Skip was good too. I mean, Skip was a guy that, I mean, honestly, you'd sit and have beers with him after games, and he had stories, and you'd sit there and talk baseball all night. It was great.
All right, here we
Would
go.
you tell us, I want Greg to tell a story about a plane ride where somebody was sitting behind him.
Yeah, that was Mitch Williams. You guys remember him?
The wild thing.
Yeah. So he was real good at throwing his voice. You know, Mitch could throw his voice. So on the airplanes, Mitch would go hide right behind Harry's seat, and he'd go, "Hey Harry Carey, hey Harry," you know, and Harry looked back, he's like, "Who's calling me?" You know, and doing all that stuff. You know, Mitch would go, "Hey Harry, asshole, Harry." You know? That was pretty funny. He used to pick on Harry that way. But yeah, that was awesome. Made the ride go by quicker.
We've got a question right here.
Mike Jansen here. How about a hitter that was very difficult for you to get around or thought he might have owned you?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. You know, it's well, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's there's always one or two on every team. You know, but I think probably the best hitter was probably Tony Gwynn. You know, probably the most respected hitter. Like the guy you really didn't want to face was Barry Bonds, you know. So, but
Tell them the story about Barry Bonds coming onto your team bus and calling out Smoltz.
yeah, that wasn't very good. We were at the All-Star game, and Barry was, you know, talking shit to everybody like he does. And, he told Smoltz he was going to take him deep, and he did next month. And you know, Smoltzy's winning 5-1, and Barry hits a meaningless one in the ninth, and it was getaway day, and Barry actually walks on our bus looking for Smoltzy to drop a "I told you so" on him. And, you know, you got 24 guys that are his teammate, where, you know, it was kind of like, you know, get off the bus. But it was, yeah.
Not using those play words. That
Well, yeah, you got to clean it up a little bit.
I remember you telling me one time that
Yeah.
you weren't really afraid of any hitters, but when Barry Bonds was hitting 70 and 73,
Yeah.
and his head was getting bigger in circumference by the week, that to pitch against Barry Bonds when he had all of his gladiator metal gear on, so you really couldn't hurt him with any kind of a pitch. That was sort of intimidating.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, though, he was like the easiest guy in the world to pitch to, because if it mattered, you just walked him. I mean, he was a guy. I mean, he was so much better than all the other hitters in the game that you got to pick your fights. You know, you got to get 27 outs. You got to know where they are. You know, they're not going to be with him. So you go pick on the other 8 guys and see if you can't, you know, kind of find them that way.
All right, we've got one right here.
Greg, it's Gil Cohen. Where did Mad Dog come into your being?
Just Maddux. Sounds like Bill Madlock was Mad Dog. Gary Maddux, he was Mad Dog too. But you know, my brother, just kind of associated with the name. You know.
It's kind of funny that didn't some people call you the professor too? And that's what they called Kyle Hendricks, who went to Dartmouth.
Well, he is smart.
This is true. This is true. He got a degree from Dartmouth, so he earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
We've got a question right here.
Greg, thank you for doing this today. When you came into Wrigley as a visitor for the first time, what was that like to you?
Yeah, that was a little different, you know, going in as the enemy instead of, you know, the one of the favorite guys. But actually, my first game at Wrigley was my first game as a Brave. We opened up next year in Wrigley.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I threw the last game of the '92 season at Wrigley, and then the first game in '93 with a different uni on. So, you know, there were mixed emotions on why I left, and I think that the articles in the paper were these 10 reasons to boo Maddux.
Really?
Oh yeah, they let me out of it. They buried me from the time I walked out of the dugout. I even hit a couple foul balls when I hit, like over the dugout and stuff. They were throwing the foul balls back. So, because I remember I hit one and they threw it back, and I hit another one and me and the catcher went, "Hey man, look out, they might throw it." Yeah.
All right, we've got one here.
Greg, this is baseball related, but I graduated from Valley a couple years after you did. And when we would go to lunch, people would say, "I heard Maddux used to eat here at lunch." And they'd go, "Freddie Banks used to eat over here." So we would go to places that we thought that you ate at, but we had no idea where you ate.
Yeah.
So 30 years later, where did you go to lunch when you went to Valley?
Okay. Well,
What the heck of a question?
Where?
so the first thing I did was I probably got the Big Virginia. Okay, 'cause that's what they had there. And
The Big Texan?
yeah, I always stuck with the Big Virginia. The Big Texans were messy. Trying to think, when you walk in the cafeteria from outside,
Yeah.
last table on the right.
No, but did you leave the school?
Did I leave the
Yeah,
school?
we used to always leave at lunch.
eat.
And go to Commercial Center or something, and we'd go to places and they'd go, Freddie Banks used to go to this.
Oh,
pizza
yeah.
place," or
Yeah.
Howard Houston told me.
Yeah, we had a car last year, that's right. Where'd we go? Went to Farm Basket?
Yeah,
Jack in the Box was right there?
well, those weren't the names that came up, I think.
Yeah.
All right, we've got another one right over here.
Hi, Greg. Over time, there'll probably be a few more pitchers that win over 300 games. Do you think it'll be the last pitcher to win 350 or more, though?
Who knows? I mean, when I was in Atlanta, Don Sutton used to tell us there'll never be another 300 game winner. He said that in the '90s. So I don't really want to make that mistake. It's like no way. But who knows? There could be a kid in 8th grade right now that might do it. Who knows what's going to happen? No chance. No.
These are some great questions. We've got another one right here.
Hello, Greg. I grew up in the Southeast. I was probably one of the few people in the room that was glad to see you leave Chicago to go to Atlanta. I really enjoyed watching you pitch, but one thing that was really unique is there was a commercial. And I don't know if you remember this commercial, or obviously you probably do. It was Chicks Dig the Long Ball. Can you tell me how that come about and so forth?
Well, I mean, you kind of you sign your shoe deal, and in your shoe deal is if Nike wants to do 2 appearances with you, they can. So, I'm like, yeah, I'll sign it. They're never going to ask anyway. Back when you do your Nike deals, and they came up with the idea, and they asked if me and Glad would do it, and, you know, we did it, and, you know, it's pretty cool because it happened, you know, we had just pitched in the World Series, and nobody knew who we were. And then after we did that commercial, then people like knew you after the commercial, so it was kind of weird.
I would hope he'd remember it. It's the only commercial he ever did.
But yeah, it's good stuff. It was fun, actually fun doing it.
Everybody loved it.
Well, thank you.
We've got a question right up front here.
Hi, gents. It's kind of two questions. So, Jack, growing up, my favorite baseball players were Roger Clemens when I was pitching and Bo Jackson when I was hitting as a kid. Who was yours, and as well for you?
Oh, man. I have to say that he died before I was born, but I was fixated on Babe Ruth from the time I was a little kid. Just the mythology around Babe Ruth, and somebody gave me a recording of Babe Ruth's retirement talk when he was dying of cancer, and that was a treasured thing. And when I played Little League Baseball, I used his number 3 on a Brooklyn Dodgers jersey, because didn't he end his career with Brooklyn? I think he did from the Yankees. But in golf, it was Arnold Palmer, and then getting to meet him several times later in life when I was writing golf books and stuff. You know, he was paid great tribute to when he died a couple months ago, as he should have, because no one's image dominated a sport in a positive way quite like Arnold Palmer did with golf. As Sam Snead once said about Arnold, he said, Arnold Palmer went to bed with charisma and he woke up with more. And I mean, really, I met him several times through the books I did with Peter Jacobson, and Greg had the thrill of playing golf with him. I certainly never played golf with him, but he'd remember your name, he'd look you dead in the eye. He was a perfect gentleman. He would try to pass down the way to behave as an athlete. You know, the famous story we wrote about in one of the books with Peter is Peter Jacobson did a lot of outings with Arnold, and they were someplace, and Peter was having all these programs shoved in his face, and he signed a bunch, and Arnold was right behind him. And Arnold had perfect penmanship and wrote his name perfectly every time. I mean, it was like a calligrapher couldn't do any better. And Peter never forgot this. He said, at one of these things, Arnold slammed him on the shoulder with a program. And he handed the program to Peter, and he goes, "What the hell is that?" And Peter said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Is that your signature?" And Peter said, "I'd signed it like I was falling down a staircase." You know, and by the way, yours is not exactly A+, dude. I've got jerseys and balls that look like they might be from Fidel Castro. But anyway, Arnold said, if somebody cares enough to ask for your autograph and they get it home, they ought to be able to read the damn thing. And Peter, after that, and he's signed 1 million books that we've done, and man, his penmanship is great, and just little things like that Arnold passed down and influenced the game. So to this day, my hero in sports of all is Arnold Palmer. Your turn. Now that I've insulted you.
Growing up for me, it was probably Pete Rose. And then pitcher was Mario Soto, 2 Reds.
Really? Mario Soto?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he threw fastball changeup, and that's kind of what I threw.
Okay.
So that was the guy that I was supposed to watch growing up. You know, you always pick guys that you can kind of throw like a little bit, kind of go from there.
All right, we've got another question right here.
I got to cover the Reds for 6 years, and I was there when Mario Soto was there, and of course when Pete was there. But one of my first hero, absolutely first hero, was Sandy Koufax. And I was a baseball writer at the Rocky Mountain News, and I went to Vero Beach in '89, I think it was, to make a loop around most of the camps. I got to Vero Beach for the very first time, and I ran into one of the sports writers I knew that covered the club. And he said, "Hey, it's 5 o'clock, it's cocktail time, let's go in." So he goes in, and I see another writer that I knew, and the guy that took me in said, "Hey, come here, I want you to meet a couple guys." So he tapped 2 guys that were at the bar, they turn around and there's Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. And that was the moment of blah, 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 blah. Totally awestruck. It's happened a few times in my life, but that was really one of the biggest ones. What I wanted to say, the other day when Greg and I had a prep interview, he said, how's this going to work? I said, we're going to do 1 hour. Jack and I are going to double team. And then the audience is going to get a half hour with you. And he goes, half hour? If you want to make it an hour, go ahead. I'm not sure we can because I know they have to do cleanup, but I tell you what,
I did like 10 minutes.
Huh? That really impressed me about him, and I think he deserves some applause for that.
Greg, you went back to Chicago to play. I'm sure you could have gone anywhere. What was in that decision?
Yeah, I was going to retire there. I figured I'd go back there because, I kind of came up a Cub. I always considered myself a Cub. Went to Atlanta. It'd be kind of cool to go back to Chicago and retire, And then kind of changed my mind when 3 years were done. So,
I have another question right here in the corner.
That was basically it.
A lot of pitchers now throw 100 miles an hour, and it seems like the art of pitching is disappearing and it's becoming more of a power sport. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, it's harder to hit. The harder you throw, the harder it is to hit. There's a lot of truth to that, I think if you look at Roger Clemens, very good pitcher. He just happened to throw really hard, I think if you can combine the two, then you got a chance to be really good. And, you see Kershaw's kind of that way. A lot of power, but he's a great pitcher, good slider, changeup, plays baseball the right way. It just, do you have to throw 95? You don't, but it's a nice luxury. You look at Kyle Hendricks, did pretty good. I don't think he threw a pitch over 90 all year. So, there is room for both styles of pitching. But as a scout or a general manager or somebody, it's pretty easy to take that guy throwing 95 over to take a chance the guy throwing 88 is going to be able to pitch better than you.
All right, we've got a serious Cubs fan here.
Partially. The young Cub fans don't seem to have any scar tissue. I was just back there in September, and they're all enthusiastic. Anyway, Mr. Sheehan, I agree with you about those who did not vote for Greg on first ballot Hall of Fame. I don't know what sport they're interested in, but my question to Greg is, I was a wild lefty pitching for the Wheaton Tigers in Chicago in the 60s, and I'm struck by hit by pitch rules. It used to be, at least my understanding was, you had to sort of make an honest effort to get out of the way. And now some of these guys, they have their elbow in the, Chuck Knobloch comes to mind. He had his elbow in the friggin' strike zone.
Yeah.
Is that changed? Is that rule just ignored?
No, it's still there. It's just not enforced to very often. You start throwing it at their head, though, they get out of the way. But no, I hear what you're saying. I do. Fernando Vaney used to do that. And, the rule book says the hitter has to make an attempt to get out of the way of the ball. And if the umpire doesn't feel he does, then he doesn't have to give him first base. But they very rarely apply it.
Anthony Rizzo got hit how many times this year? Man, he's so far over the plate, it's amazing he doesn't get hit every time up.
I would love to be able to toss this mic up there, but I would probably never be allowed to do this again. But this gentleman right here's got a question for you.
Lifetime Cub fan. I remember you pitched in Houston for the first time against Roger Clemens, a duel that was billed as the Professor versus the Rock. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I think we both went about 4 A's or something.
Oh, really?
I do remember that game. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
opposite side over here, this gentleman.
That's right. First of all, we appreciate you coming to West Coast and you watch the pitch. Second, the news media brings up the pitcher duel. You're going against some famous pitcher. Do you feel like you're pitching against somebody else? You're pitching against the team?
The hitters. The hitters. I mean, you know, the only time you're really facing the pitcher is when he puts a bat in his hand and you're actually facing him. But, yeah, I try to not really worry a whole lot about who I was facing. I was just more worried about the hitters I was about to face.
We got a cluster of questions right here at this table.
Cluster. Long-time Cub fan, been waiting 50 years to know. I didn't even see it happen in my lifetime, so great that they won. And it was a team effort. My question is really, as a former player that won 18 Golden Gloves, no doubt had a pickoff, moved to first base, could throw to second base too. As a teammate, what would you be saying to Lester right now?
I wouldn't be saying anything to him, you know.
Explain why Lester, what he's referring to.
Yeah,
Lester.
I mean, the last thing you want that to do is to get into his throw home. You know, I mean, he makes his living getting hitters out, more so than holding runners close. So you got to be real careful about addressing what's going on at first base because that could creep into his throw home. So I think I've had teammates in the past that had a hard time throwing the bases, building bunts and stuff like that, and I've seen them get into their throw home, and then they're kind of out of the game. So it's no different than having yips on a 3-foot putt, to be honest with you. And I will say this, it's actually a good, we used him as a teaching moment for our players at UNLV on how to hold runners on second base, because the pitchers weren't holding guys on second base very good. And you have to stare at them and make them stop. And I think when you watch Lester pitch, the one thing he does is he makes the runners stop most of the time. And he actually holds the guys, even though they have those huge leads, he actually does a pretty good job of holding them on first base just by waiting for them to, you know, stop letting them go second. So I wouldn't worry about it, and I just hope he wins 20 games.
If I can ask this, how did you learn the art of getting off the mound as fast as you did when you completed a pitch? Was that your dad when you were little? Was it Mike? Was it Roger Fairless at Valley High School? Because the thing, if you watch replays of Greg, he would get off the mound so fast he would be in a position to field immediately, whereas a guy like Kershaw, there's so much motion and stuff, you wonder how he would ever field, you know, a tough infield single.
It's just delivery. The way I finished my delivery allowed me to be in a better fielding position.
Who taught you that though?
Nobody, just how it was.
That just like it was natural to
It's
you?
kind of like your golf swing, you know, it's just my natural golf swing. You know, somebody probably tweaked it here and there along the way. It is what it was.
Greg, if I can jump in here, didn't you, when you got to Class A, find out something about preparation? You were like way ahead of them in certain areas?
Well, I mean, when I signed out of high school, I never realized how good my high school coach was until I signed and played against guys around the country my age. You know? And yeah, Roger Ferris was my high school coach. And you know, when you're in high school, that's your coach. You're just going through the routines every day, and you're not thinking much of it. And then you realize this guy taught me a lot about baseball at a pretty young age, and I felt like I was a little bit ahead of the game with some of the guys I was drafted with.
It's obvious that high school baseball is at a pretty high level here, seeing as we're going to have 2 National League MVPs in a row when they give Chris Ryan.
All right, right here, question off to the side. Greg, you had one of the great quotes in my life that I've ever heard. Chicks love the long ball. How did that come about, and did that quote follow you through your career in a public way?
Well, he wants to know if chicks came on to you after the commercial. I'm sure Kathy would love to hear that answer.
No, it was just, it was just the line in the thing, you know, and, you know, it get repeated here and there, and, you know, you kind of have fun with it, and you move on.
With all the pitchers that Hi, Greg, Ed Rogish. I was lucky enough to play with Ralph Beater over at Adams too on Sundays back in the day.
Cool, good.
Hey, with all the Tommy John surgeries, and then you see a guy like Arietta that's a physical specimen.
Yeah.
You being a janitor, you must have come up with some secrets. What is your secret to longevity? Are you a gym rat? You work out when none of us see you anywhere else in the morning? Or how did you do it? To have longevity you did?
Yeah, just luck, I guess. Good genetics. Who knows?
Good genetics, good data.
Yeah.
Keith Clarke?
Well, I mean, Keith, I did things to prevent injury, but, you know, I think a lot of it, you know, there's kind of a saying, there's two types of pitchers. There's pitchers that have had surgery, and there's pitchers that are going to have surgery. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time. You run out of throws, and you got to go and get it fixed.
How many games did you miss? How many starts did you miss from injury in your entire career?
Like 2.
Think about that. 20 years and missed 2 starts. That's freaky.
We have another question basically on the opposite side of the room. Same.
Hi, Donna Dahlberg here. Back in the 90s, my sons both attended the Las Vegas Baseball Academy, and I know you and your brother were involved in that. How long were you involved, and what memories do you take away from that?
Well, I take most of the memories away when I actually coached in it. Coming up in the minor leagues, I mean, you really didn't make a lot of money, so you kind of had to get jobs in the off season. And, you know, Mike Martin ran camp. I mean, it was a way to make a few bucks in the off season. And trying to coach, you know, kids at that time was it was actually a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with the kids, and we enjoyed being around the other coaches, and it was a good time. And that's still going on today. It's good stuff.
All right, another question right here.
Hey Greg, I know you're a local like I am. I've only been here 20 years. I'm sure that you do the same stuff all of us do here. You go to Albertsons, Lowe's. Have you ever lied about being Greg Maddux? Maybe in line at Walmart and somebody said, wow, you look just like Greg Maddux. Have you ever said, I get that all the time?
Absolutely. I usually tell them I'm like Jeffrey Dahmer or Hannibal Lecter or something. They go, I know you, Jeffrey Dahmer. They go, oh yeah, how you doing, Jeffrey?
Have you ever worn a disguise?
No.
Hey Greg, I want to ask you a question about today's baseball. I remember watching baseball back even before you actually. But anyway, pitchers were pitching 300 innings a year, right? And they were finishing 9-inning games. I played high school I played high school baseball and college baseball, and we're finishing my games. What do you think of today's world where they're pitching 150, 200 innings a year, right, and breaking down halfway through the year and not being able to finish the year? I mean, do you think it's? I mean, what do you think about the whole thing? Because to me, it's ridiculous. You used to pitch on 3 days rest, then 4 days rest. Now they're lucky to pitch on 5 days rest and don't break down. I mean, what is your opinion of this whole thing? Thank you.
It's mostly just a different mindset now. You know, I kind of caught the tail end of what you were talking about. You know, like when I was a young player coming up, Rick Sutcliffe would say, I like to finish what I start. Okay? Meaning I want to go to 9. All right? When I was leaving, I heard Kerry Wood tell Mark Pryor, man, if you can just give a good 5 or 6, it'll be a good outing. You know, so it's kind of just a different mindset that goes on today. We didn't really have pitch counts, and then I think the pitch counts started, and now you have pitch counts in Little League, and rookie ball, and all that stuff, and the mindset's just totally changed from then. So I don't know why it happened. It's just kind of the way it is.
You got this outbreak of Tommy John surgeries. Do you have any
ideas about what's going on there?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's year-round baseball. You know, the kids aren't playing the other sports. You know, you got so many throws in your arm, and, you know, when you're playing year-round, you know, you're running out of throws.
All right, do we have any other questions in the audience? There's one right over here, off to the side.
Yes, sir.
Greg, when you talk, you're very passionate about the Cubs, and can you speak to why there's not a Cubs logo next to your name in Cooperstown?
Say that again?
There's no logo next to your name in Cooperstown.
Oh.
Why is that?
Well, I spent 11 years in Chicago, and I spent 11 years in Atlanta. So it was really 50-50, you know. I didn't feel it was right to leave a team off, and you're not allowed to wear 2 hats, but by wearing no hat, it allowed kind of to be both teams. So, that's why I did it.
We've got one right here in the center of the room.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame, of the great pitchers that are not in the Hall of Fame, who do you think ought to be in? That hasn't been on the
Probably go with Lee Smith, probably one of my top guys, you know, just because I played with him. He was the most dominant closer for 7 or 8 year period back when he was doing his thing. So, he's kind of the first one on the list. Sorry?
How about Pete Rose?
Well, that's kind of your own, you know.
Yeah, but didn't Major League Baseball just bet $300 million on that FanDuel, which is gambling? And Pete, what did he bet nickels and dimes?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when you sign out of high school and you go to your first spring training, they read you the no gambling on baseball rule, okay? The general manager comes in and reads you that and says, hey guys, you can't bet on the game, you know? At the All-Star break, your manager or team owner, whatever place you're at, comes down and reads you the no gambling on baseball, and they say, hey, you can't bet on the game, okay? They don't say you can't take steroids, you can't do drugs, you can't beat your wife, you can't speed, okay? They don't tell you all those things. The only thing they say is, hey, you can't bet on the game. And it's read to you twice a year, every year you're playing. I mean, that's just, you know, it's one thing you don't do.
Did anyone leave a ring of fire around Lee
Smith?
Lee Smith? No. What was he like, 6'5"?
He was actually a great dude, believe it or not. I mean, he was a tremendous teammate. He was very good at what he does. Made you laugh. One of the funniest teammates I've ever had. And he had a saying like, let's eat. So when the game was over and the Cubs would win, you know, everyone's cheering. He's like, hey, let's eat. Let's get some food. And I even hear myself still saying it today. You know?
I gotta ask you, because Leo was on your pitching coach of the Braves. I watched all the Braves games, Channel 7 here in Las Vegas, and he never stopped doing this. That would drive me nuts if I was sitting next to him. Is he that nervous?
Yeah, he's from the mountains in West Virginia.
Kind of like a deliverance thing.
We used to laugh at him all the time.
Yeah, I used to bug me because the guy would just like, when's he going to fall over? Because he's rocking the whole time.
How much did he help you, Greg?
He helped. He definitely helped. Leo's big thing was, you know, make sure you pitch 200 innings. His favorite line was, pitch 200 innings and everything will take care of itself. You know, that was kind of one of his philosophies. And down and away fastball, 4-seam backspin. Pitch 200 innings, everything will take care of itself. Okay, coach, got it.
Typically, when a manager comes out to the mound and talk to you, give me an example of the conversation that takes place. You know, the third baseman's in there and the first baseman.
Yeah.
Are they talking about where they're going to eat that night, or?
No, not really. Not if it's just the players maybe, but if the manager or coach comes out, no, it's not. It's usually about the matchup. Who do you want? You want the guy here or the guy on deck? Oh, you're going, oh, the guy in the hole. But, yeah, it's usually about strategy.
Very seldom about your mechanics.
Very so.
Yeah.
Very so.
Did you ever chase the manager or a pitching coach?
Chase him?
Yeah, just say, get the.
Oh, no, you can't do that.
Just-
That goes against the code. You can't, yeah.
Yeah.
You can disagree with your manager all you want, but you can't do it on the field.
You can answer.
We got a question in the back center of the room here.
Greg, you were one of the greatest pitchers of all time. You had movement like nobody. But you hit 5 home runs in the major leagues. What was it like to get a hold of somebody and knock one out of the park?
Yeah, it's pretty good. What's that commercial where you see the football player scoring the touchdown and then the girl?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Pepsi commercial.
Whatever that is, I mean, it's the ultimate rush. You know, I mean, it's the ultimate rush because it's just, it's not supposed to happen. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Who did you take deep that you enjoyed most?
Probably Kevin Brown.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because he was just a red ass. Swearing at your owner.
We've got another question over here next to your dad, actually.
Greg, of all the tremendous accomplishments, statistics that you left behind in the major leagues, do you have one that you would say you're most proud of, that you privately say to yourself, that was the best thing I feel I've done in baseball?
Yeah, World Series ring.
Yeah.
We got one right here.
I was just wondering, it's great to be here with you, and I really appreciate you doing this. Lifetime Cub fan myself from Chicago. I was wondering what your favorite manager was. You played for different ones on each team. Which one, do you have any famous stories, and which one was the hardest to deal with?
Well, the hardest to deal with was Don Zimmer back in the day because he was kind of real old school and he liked to yell a lot. But, I got to play for Bobby Cox and Joe Torre. Like, they're both elite, as good as it gets. But I think the best manager I played for was Buddy Black in San Diego.
Really?
Yeah.
For what reason?
Just great guy, great personality. He could sell you that table if you wanted to. I mean, just he was a starting pitcher, scratch golfer.
Had it all.
Just X's and O's, everything was just really good.
Would you make a good manager? I've heard the Rockies are interested.
You make a great manager.
Wow.
For anybody.
We have another question right over here.
Greg, one quick one. How would you pitch to Babe Ruth?
Like right now, I'm throwing a real pitch to him right now. Looking at him on video, you see all the old tapes, I would say he kind of pulls off, he spins on the ball. I wouldn't go inside, I would keep everything away, and I think I'd throw him as many off speed till whatever.
Because he's looking for the
He just looks like a spinner, yeah. So you don't want to mess around inside on the spinners.
We've got one on the balcony right here with the hat on.
Hey, they say that you are the one that came up with putting your glove over your mouth when you talk to your catcher. Is that true?
No.
That wasn't you?
I heard that. But no, they were doing that back in the 60s. Yeah.
And another quick one is, you never threw the ball much over 90 miles an hour. If you did, you always got hit hard.
Oh.
That's when you went to your off-speed pitch. Is that true?
Well, no, I threw it as hard as I could pretty much every time. It was a fastball. Just, the velocity is nice to have, but,
I'm trying to bag on you. I've been watching you since you were...
No, I'm just saying it's like, it really doesn't matter if it's 88 or 92. I tell the guys, if we go stand on the side of the freeway, which cars are going 90 and which are going 92, you can't tell. So it's about location, changing speeds, deception.
Here's another urban legend I'd like you to address. and this story's been told in different forms, that you were sitting with somebody in a dugout and you were watching a pitcher's tendencies and a hitter's tendencies. And he said, dude, you better move down to the end of the bench because this next one's coming off the end of his bat and it could hurt somebody. Elaborate on that story. There's got to be some truth to it, because I know you knew hitters' tendencies better than anybody in the game.
Well, we would always play what's going to happen. We'd always try to predict, like, okay, what's going to happen? Okay, I got F7, I got strikeout, and I say walks. And, you know, that didn't go over well when it was your teammate. That was just a game we played, and you would call foul balls or whatever. You know, sometimes you guess right.
We've got another question right over here.
You already mentioned that most of your comrades were pitchers. Are there any hitters that had some hijinks that you talked about? And I'm kind of curious about Chipper Jones, because he seems like he would be
He's asking about hijinks from other players, and specifically Chipper Jones.
Hijinks.
Pranks.
Oh.
I think that's what you meant, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, pranks. Yeah.
Hijinks?
That's an old school term.
Far jokes, I guess?
You gotta be our age.
Yeah, it's a generational thing.
Chipper, like, really good player, obviously. But, like, just, you know how you have gym rats on the hoop court? He's a baseball rat. He's a baseball junkie. And he, that's all he did. That's all he played baseball. He talked about hitting. His dad would call him after games, and his dad was actually really good for him. You know, you hear a lot of stories about what problems dads can be sometimes, but I think Chipper's dad was really good for him, and just a ball player. I wish he tried harder on defense sometimes, but he never gave up at a bat.
What do you think about John Lackey absolutely going ballistic when somebody makes some bad plays behind him? Did you like it?
Well, I mean, it's disrespectful to your team, but it's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch.
I mean, it's fun watching people get mad. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, especially when it's the other team.
Yeah.
So, but
Another question to the back side of the room here.
Hey Greg, I know you're 11 years with the Cubs, 11 years with the Braves. I remember you more with the Braves myself, and the Cubs just won it, so everybody's amped up about that. But tonight there hasn't been a lot brought up about the Braves World Series. There was a lot of World Series you guys got to and lost, but what was it like when you guys actually got over the hump and won that one?
I mean, it's like the ultimate achievement, you know, and, you know, I mean, that was the highlight. You know, I can't imagine how the Yankees feel winning 3 or 4 of them. I mean, how do you pick, you know, but, you know, trust me, it doesn't suck losing in the World Series, okay? It's not a bad thing. You definitely want to win it, but I get that, but, I mean, like the Indians, tremendous year. You know, they didn't win it, okay? The Cubs are having more fun than them, but trust me, they're going to feel really good about what's going on. About right now, it's probably starting to fade away for them a little bit, so, but yeah.
We've got a question up in the balcony over here, sir.
Hi, Greg. Clarke High School graduate for a long time now. I used to follow you on most of the days. The question is about Barry Bonds. Is in 87 Sosa. They belong in the Hall.
Putting you on the spot.
Barry does, because, you know, I mean, I know the steroid thing, like, you're not supposed to do it and all that. To me, Barry was good enough before he took it, you know, and if he took it, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, I think Frank Thomas, you know, you look at somebody that did it the right way, you know, and just a big, strong guy and was content with being a big, strong guy. He didn't have to, like, try to do anything extra. You know, Frank kept hitting 30 home runs a year, 30, 35 home runs a year. Guys started taking that stuff and hitting, you know, 50, 60 home runs. And they're going, Frank, you're having a bad year. He's like, how am I having a bad year? I hit 35 again. That's what I've been doing for 10 years. And I won the MVP. Now all of a sudden I'm having a bad year because I only hit 35. So, you know, it is what it is. Happy for Frank that didn't do it, did it the right way, got in. To me, Barry was easily the best player in the game for the years I was playing. So, you know, I might be a little biased with him.
All right, I'm going to be a little selfish here because this has got to be the last question, but I really want this one. You love your wife, loving relationship. Where did Hannibal and Clarice come from?
It's like one of our favorite movies. You know how you watch, you know, you get a movie and you start acting like you're the characters, or at least right now.
That was fantastic. All right, guys. Give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed your evening. Norm, take it away.
Thank you very much, Greg and Jack. Hope you had as good a time as I did. This is a special, really special thing that I get to do every 3 months, and thank you, the newcomers that came out for it. My wife and I got married in the courtyard about 4 years ago, and we had our wedding reception here. So about 3 or 4 months later, I was talking to Joanne, my assistant, and saying that there was something I'd like to do, something along the line of what I think I do well, and that is ask questions and dig fun stuff out of celebrities and sports people. Spend a lifetime doing it. So she said, well, why don't we do something like when Tony Curtis asked you to do the Q&A with him at, I think it was the library over on Flamingo. And so we started it, and now we're in our 11th one, and they just get better. And this was really, truly one of the best ones. Talk about inside baseball. I mean, that was really fantastic. I would be remiss if I didn't personally thank some extremely important people who made all this possible. Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, Hugo's Cellar at the Four Queens, Nevada Coin Mart, Las Vegas Review-Journal, KTNV Channel 13, Elite Media Incorporated, Jerry Metellus Photography, Vegas for Locals, Las Vegas Keynote Speakers, eVision Media, Greg Bennett, thank you again, Greg.
No problem.
Joanne Downey again, Myron Martin, Glenn Meadas, and the Smith Center staff. And thank you all for coming. Appreciate it very much.